I think one of the biggest mistakes I was making with food was that I kept asking the wrong question. I'd pick something up, look at the front of the pack, maybe see high protein or no added sugar, or plant based or natural, and immediately ask, is this healthy? But I'm starting to realize that healthy is not actually the first question. What is healthy? Rather, before I judge a food properly, I need to ask something much simpler. The thing is, what is this thing really? Is it a food? Is it a snack? Is it a supplement? Is it a full meal? Is it a kind of staple like rice? Or is it a treat? Food by identity is my own definition. It's not some official scientific classification. And for me, it's a helpful, practical tool. What kind of food is this? What form is it in? What role is it meant to play? And what is a fair comparison? Because if you skip that step, then I can easily make some category mistakes. So, for example, I can compare a snack bar to a complete meal. That would be silly. You could compare fruit juice to a whole fruit or a supplement to a whole food. That just doesn't make sense. And in my own head, I can have what seems like a smart food argument, but it's actually confused from the start. So the thing is, not all foods are meant to play the same, and that's why we need to understand its identity. So let's look at a simple example. Let's compare apples with apple flavored energy gel, right? Both of them have carbohydrates, but they're not the same type of food. The apple is a whole fruit. It has water and fiber and structure and all the complexities of a whole fruit, of a whole food. The energy gel is a concentrated sports product. It's designed to deliver carbohydrates quickly and usually when you're doing some prolonged exercise. So it would be too simple to say the apple is natural, so it is always good, or the gel is processed, so it is always bad. That would be silly. If I'm sitting at my desk and I want a snack, of course, the apple makes more sense. But if I'm an hour into a long run, sure, let's do the gel, obviously. Right? So that doesn't make the gel or the apple better. It just means that we need to understand what is the identity of this food I'm looking at and what role does it play. And I've kind of come up with five practical questions in my head to go through. This is not complicated questions. It's just things that I need to understand before I judge whether something should be part of my diet. Let's just talk about identity right now and what are the five questions that I want to ask. So the first is, what is the basic source? Does this food mainly come from a grain or a fruit or vegetable or meat or nuts or seeds or whatever else, right? Or has it been assembled from ingredients drawn from different sources? This is useful, but it doesn't settle the whole question. So, for example, let's say plant based. Plant based tells me something about origin, but it doesn't tell me whether the product is high in fiber, sodium, sugar, or refined starches and oils. And animal based still tells me something about the origin, but it doesn't tell me whether I'm looking at eggs or plain yogurt or biltong or cheese or something else. Yeah. Those are very different foods. So the source matters. Source is not the whole identity. This is where a lot of marketing can get tricky. A product can lean heavily on one identity word, such as plant based or natural, or dairy, or whatever else. But that word is only the beginning of the investigation. It is not the conclusion. The structure has changed, the concentration has changed, the role has changed. So what we compared with would also change. So this does not mean that every step away from a whole orange is automatically bad. That's not the point, and I'm not trying to talk about good or bad. I'm just trying to talk about identity and what's been done to it. I need to know what the actual food is because food is not just the nutrients floating around. The structure matters, the water, the fiber, the texture, all of this matters. How quickly I eat it matters. So whether it is a whole food or liquid or powdered or concentrated, this is what matters. And this is why I don't only want to ask how many grams of sugar or how many calories. Those question matters. But first I need to ask what kind of food I'm looking at. That leads me to my third question. Is it a single food or a mixed product? Some foods are quite simple. An egg is mainly one food, or banana, or a bag of lentils. That's one food. But then you get mixed foods like bread or yogurt or cereal or sauce or protein bar, right? And the more complex the product is, the more lenses become important. But if you're looking at a protein bar, the identity alone tells you almost nothing. So then you need to know what it's made from and the nutrients and what was done to it, i.e., processing, and what claims are being made about it. So the food identity doesn't replace the other lenses. It tells me where to start. The fourth question I want to ask under the identity lens is, what job is this food supposed to do? Olive oil can be useful in a diet, but it's not a meal. Protein powder can be a convenient protein source, but it's not the same thing as a whole diet. And of course, biscuits are enjoyable, but perhaps it shouldn't be your whole breakfast. And something like, let's say, maize meal can be an important contribution as an affordable staple, especially in the South African context, but it still needs to fit within a broader diet. So that's the key. The role prevents me from demanding that every food must do everything. Not every food needs to be high in protein or low carb or a complete meal. If this is a treat, let it be a treat. If it's a staple, then I should ask stronger questions because I might eat it more often. What is the fair comparison? This is where food discussions often go wrong. We compare a real product to an imaginary perfect meal, but that is not always the decision a real person is making. If I'm choosing cereal, the first useful comparison may be another cereal. If I'm choosing yogurt, I should compare it with other yogurts that could play the same role. If I'm choosing a snack for the car, I should compare it with the realistic portable snack. Yeah, it does not mean I can never ask whether cereal is the best breakfast for me. Of course, I can, but that is a different question. There is a difference between asking which cereal is better and asking, is cereal the best breakfast for me? Those are not the same questions. Food identity helps me ask the right questions at the right level. So let's make this practical. The front of the jar may show peanuts, but the actual product could be pure peanut butter with salt, peanut butter with sugar and added oils, a reduced fat peanut spread, or a sweet spread that contains some peanuts. Those products are related, but they don't have exactly the same identity. So I should not just say it's peanut butter, therefore it's all the same. Turn it around. Look at what it actually is. Similarly with yogurt, it could be plain fermented yogurt, or it could be sweet and flavored yogurt. It could be a high protein cultured dairy product that looks like yogurt, a drinking yogurt, a dairy dessert, or some plant based alternative. Again, those are not interchangeable just because they sit near one another on the shelf. The identity matters. Yeah, I hope the point is becoming clear that something that looks like a particular product can have different variations. And that's why figuring out the identity makes sense. What is it and what was done to it and what does it contain and what is its source and what is a practical alternative? I think that becomes helpful. Food identity is descriptive. It's not a verdict. Whole food can be useful information, but whole foods are not magically perfect in every quantity for every person in every context. Packaged foods can be useful information, but it doesn't mean packaged foods are bad. Frozen vegetables come in packets, yeah? So do sweets. Canned beans are packaged. Soft drinks are packaged. A label like processed, plant based, natural, high fiber, or whatever else might tell me something, but it doesn't tell me everything. I want to keep reminding myself that not to turn this into an ideology, do not turn one label into the whole story. So before I ask if this is this healthy, I want to ask, what is it? What form is it? What job is it trying to do? And what is an honest comparison? Because if I do not know what kind of food I'm looking at, I'm probably going to ask the wrong questions about the ingredients, the nutrients, the processing claims, and even the evidence. So lens one is simple. Before I judge the food, I need to identify the food, not poison, not magic. First, understand what I'm actually eating. Once I know the kind of food I'm looking at, the next question is, what is it actually made from? And that is lens two, which is the ingredients, which I'll cover in my next video. Because the front of the pack gives me the story, but the ingredient list tells me what the product is built from.